Hey gang, welcome back to the Hoops Boys Pod. It's your host with the most, Jet. Got my boy CProc with me and our two guest experts, Greg and Shaddillac. And before we get into it, I want to talk about some impactful injuries that will definitely impact the playoffs. First is a person we haven't seen for a while suit up for the Golden State Warriors, Andrew Wiggins. There was rumors that he would suit up, but he did not play the last two regular season games, and there's no real clue to when he's going to show back up. But this has been affecting the Warriors all season, and I can see it affecting them in the offs. They need Drew back, Maple Jordan, to complete their team. I'm going to head out west to Memphis. Stevie Adams and Brandon Clark are out. Stevie Adams will be sidelined with a knee injury. He probably won't play for the entire postseason. And Brandon Clark, as you know, he tore his Achilles with having season-ending surgery back in March. And last but not least, poor George having a knee issue. He's not expected to play the first round of the postseason. That is a big loss for the Clippers. But gang, how do we feel about these injuries? Any of them stick out to you at all?
Well, I mean, you know me, I'm going to pick my Clippers because seems every year there's always something. Last year, Kawhi was out for the whole entire season. Paul George in the play-in game gets COVID, and they end up missing the playoffs. The year before that, Kawhi gets injured, late in the playoffs in the second round, I believe. And, it just seems like every year with the Clippers, it's something. Paul George, pretty much being their second best player, even though the Clippers have great depth, it does bring the team down in scoring wise. They do have somebody like Norman Powell who could fill in and, give him about 20 points a game. But Paul George is a, all-star caliber player. And then when you're playing a team like the Suns, who has, 3 all-stars, maybe 4 on that team, you're going to have to score, and, Paul George is also a great defender also. So he can, guard Devin Booker, guard Kevin Durant, him and Kawhi Leonard, could switch off on on those the 2 best players. He just brings a lot of versatility, being somebody who's like, I believe he's 6'9" and he plays shooting guard, but he could play, the 2, the 3, and the 4. It just feels like it's another one of those bad luck injuries for the Clippers. Hopefully, I know they say he's probably out for the first round. Maybe he can come back, towards the end of the first round. But it just feels like, this is our year again. And then one of these injuries just happens and takes the Clippers out. It's got to be the Paul George injury that's most devastating for me.
Do you feel like your Clips are in a better position, though, to withstand him being out for a little while with Rusty, with Norman Powell playing as well as he has this year, with Marcus Morris there? Like Terrence Mann's had a good year in his second year, I think. Do you think they have enough of a supporting cast to withstand any kind of a lengthy absence from him?
They do, yes. But I mean, at the same time, when it's your second best player, no matter how much depth you have, it's just always it's gonna affect you in some possible way. Like I said, Paul George is very versatile, and he's an excellent number 2, person on a team. Yes, like I said, the Clippers go like 10 deep, but Paul George he might be one of the most versatile players in the entire league. Like I said, he could play easily 3 positions, maybe 4, and he's just got that length. Sometimes he chokes in the playoffs. Yes, he becomes like Pandemic P, but just him being there, I think adds a lot of confidence to the team. And with him being out, it's just like, here we go again. Somebody gets injured, at the end of the season, and the Clippers are playing, left-handed, and it ends up, killing them in the end because they just they're missing that one player that definitely would have helped them get over the hump.
I forgot Pandemic P was a thing.
Pandemic fee. Greg, anything stick out to you, bro?
Yeah, I'll have to piggyback P. I'll piggyback on Shad's thought. I do think Paul George is the biggest linchpin of, we talk about these injuries. I mean, here's the worst thing for them. I mean, number one, it would have been great. Like, I've constantly wanted to see them as a full show and see what they would be like. Like, you get the feeling now it's just perennially someone's injured. One of their big guns is injured. You now question if you ever will get it. And I mean, right off the bat, they're playing Phoenix. I mean, if put it this way, if they had someone else on the ledger, if they were in Golden State shoes and got Sacramento, I think they could beat Sacramento, have a chance to get him healthy and back. Sure. I think the fact that they're looking Phoenix in the face is they're going to need Paul George. I don't see them getting out of that series without him. So I think that is the immediate. And speaking of Golden State, I'll just put 1B as Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins even last year was, if you watch the finals, how all the attention goes to Steph and the offense. Wiggins was awesome in that playoff run last year, and he provides defense, rebounding, the qualities that Golden State has been severely lacking this year. So I think, Golden State I think they fell into the right seeding getting the 6th. If they can get him back functioning and to anywhere near the caliber he was last year, I wouldn't rule them out making a run. So I think Paul George off the bat and Andrew Wiggins 1B. I think those are the two big ones for me.
And it's funny with Wiggins, like, they're going up against this highly prolific offense in Sacramento. Golden State really cannot afford to be shorthanded at all because they've been so abysmal on the road this year. And here they are going on the road against this team that shoots the lights out.
Yeah, I mean, for them, you would. He gets back in the mix. It changes the dynamic of that team. And also double-edged sword because someone like Kuminga has got huge minutes and he's started to flourish lately. But again, you want him as an option. They still need on the defensive end what Wiggins provides. And if they have any chance of, defending that title or coming in or close to it, they're not doing it unless he's a significant factor for them. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, he kind of helps them match up with the Suns because he'll be able to guard, at least try to guard KD or Draymond guard KD and he guard chase Devin Booker around. Because Lord knows they don't want Jordan Poole doing that.
Whoa! They got to get there first. What do you mean? The Clippers might beat the Suns.
No, you're right. My fault.
You know what they did though? When you look at the bracket, we talked off air because they don't reseed. Golden State, I mean, again, do I think they, make that full run? I don't know, but they're not in the worst spot to do it. They're really not. Again, avoiding the Suns until the conference finals is, in my opinion, that's important.
Yeah.
Maybe you get lucky and Kevin Durant gets hurt before that point again.
There's a couple of layup lines.
Very possible, but
count out the Clippers. I see.
But it's just quickly again the Wiggins thing, like Paul George, if they can buy a little time, and that like Golden State has I'll call it a win a bull series.
Yeah.
That's where I think the Clippers with George this is a killer, is that they don't have the time staring up against the behemoth that's KD and Phoenix. So big problems.
It's all right. I'm gonna count the Knicks. Don't worry.
Oh, wow.
Every dog has its day.
There we go.
One last thing on the Clippers. They're kind of, to me, like, in a way, they're like the West Coast Brooklyn Nets. Like, they never, ever, like, really got to play together. They got all this talent, and they never played together. They don't have a Kyrie over there, but
they don't have a nuclear bomb waiting to go off in the locker room.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, because I've been a proponent. Like before the year, I picked them to go to the finals. I just now you're like I don't think I'll ever see that happen now. They don't stay healthy.
Chad, if they did have a healthy Paul George, who's the better option to guard Durant? Would it be Paul George or would it be Kawhi?
No, it's definitely Kawhi, defensive player of the year, multiple like first team, defensive teams. I would think it'd be Kawhi just because I think Kawhi likes playing defense more than he likes playing offense. Kawhi just takes so much pride in it. And I think he wouldn't care if he only scored like 10 points, but if he shuts down that, that star player to, half their average or, 2/3 of the average, I think Kawhi would take that any day of the week.
Well, gang, let's get into these playing games. First, let's talk about two really good defensive teams, the Raptors and the Bulls. I think that
Sorry.
I don't want to be mean and say like who cares about this game, but I think the Bulls win. I think they have more offensive firepower, and they seem to be trending in the right direction as of late, and they have potential MVP candidate Pat Beverly over there now too. So he fixed everything wrong with the Bulls.
Gonna have to go back to the vodka.
Jet, did you slip a little something in your cup before we went on air?
I'm just drinking Martinelli's. But partner, I want to start with you. How do you feel about this matchup?
I'm going all Raptors because the Bulls, I just don't trust them. And these have been two very mercurial teams this year. They had a lot of promise for a lot of ways, completely different reasons. The Raptors were a team that had a championship roster built. They tore down some of it. They rebuilt it in a rather quick way. They brought in a lot of young talent. Scotty Barnes has been a very good player for them in a couple of years in the league. They still have Siakam, who's very good. But that team is a nice mix of young players and veteran players, and also has a more of a steady leadership, whereas Chicago is constantly changing all these pieces around. And everyone's just, okay, Chicago to me is turning into a better version of Charlotte. Here's all this talent, all these young guys, and they never put it together. And it's like, okay, I'm turning gray here, waiting for the Chicago Bulls to start winning some playoff games, and they never do it. So, I mean, until the Bulls actually do something, show me they can do something, I'm not going to trust them, especially against a team like the Raptors with a little bit more of a recent pedigree behind them.
Respect that. Greg, what we got in this matchup?
I'm with Chase on this. I'm all Raptors on this. I think the young talent for Toronto, Scotty Barnes is still coming into his own. I think they appear to be the far more well-connected team. Fear the North. They're at home. It's a huge advantage. They're significantly better at home, 27-14 on the year, win 2 out of almost 3 games up there. Chicago, to me, same thing. I mean, they're languishing in the what do we do with Alonzo Ball? That's been hanging. Obviously, he's not playing, but that team to me just they don't represent any threat of any sort in the playoff to me. And I think if there were any question, the home court for Toronto, they do have a loyal fan base. It will be loud. They will be fired up. I'm all Raptors on that one.
Last but not least, the Shaddillac.
I was kind of going back and forth on this one. Only reason I was going back and forth is I do like, the Patrick Beverly addition to the Bulls. He just kind of lit a fire under that team and gave him, a leadership quality, that they were lacking, along with some, defense and toughness. But I gotta go with the Raptors. Just because the Raptors are a more well-rounded team. They don't feel like they have like a real star. They got 4 or 5 good players. They got, Siakam, Van Fleet, Gary Trent Jr. and Anunoby and Scotty Barnes and Jacob Podol. They have 5-6 players that are any given night, they could have the hot hand and, score 25 points for your team and get you to where you need to be. I think the Bulls really only have 2-3 players, and they're not hitting that night. They have nothing else to kind of show for it. And plus the Bulls, I don't think they play really great defense outside of Beverly, even though he's kind of helped them pick it up. So I just think the depth of the Toronto Raptors is going to, help them carry to this win in the play-in game.
One last thing, James, too, I just forgot to mention, talking about the home court. Toronto's won their last 11 at home. That's a good while, 11 straight. I don't see that changing. I think for a younger team like Toronto, that is a big factor. I don't see the Bulls being good enough to snap that.
I feel so bad for DeMar DeRozan. I feel like he's got this Tracy McGrady stink on him that he can't advance in the playoffs. And I mean, they won the championship the year after they traded him. The Raptors did. So he's got a little bit of a stink about him, and I don't think it's really his fault. And I mean, he's my birthday buddy. I want to see him do well.
I think I tweeted when the Raptors won that year. I tweeted somebody check on DeMar because I know he felt crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, completely skipped my train of thought. Any chances he blows up in a revenge game?
Yes.
I mean, I know I picked the Raptors, but and so did the rest of us. But that's besides the point.
He's back home, quote unquote. Who knows those rims better than him?
Turn back the clock.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen, but wilder things, right?
We'll see.
And the Bulls give me the feel. Just question, Bulls give me the feel. The team that they have some serious reconfiguring to do in the offseason. I understand the ball injury has, that's been a huge factor, but you just get the feeling the pieces aren't, they don't seem to have made any progress. They do have some talent. That's the thing. They're not horrible, but this gets into the old adage: you stay in that 8 seed territory for 8 years, you'll be there another 20. So that's where I gauge they are at now.
And to that point, if Lonzo Ball is your make or break piece, then I think you've got to unbox some things. Nothing against Lonzo, but yeah,
I would agree.
Well, the second playing game on the lineup is one that I definitely want to watch. Two of my favorite teams to watch: the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Pelicans. These teams are very familiar with one another. They play each other a lot during the season, and the Pelicans edged them this year, which is surprising to me. But I personally, I'm going to pick the Thunder to win this matchup. I just like the emergence of their rookie. He's playing out of his mind. Shot Gilly, of course. It's just so much talent over there. The Pelicans, they're proven, but another injury that we didn't mention, Jose Alvarado is out, and he's like an emotional leader for this team, and I don't think he's gonna play in this first series either. It's not that big of a loss, but it's still a loss. But I'm going to give this game to OKC. I just think Shai Gilly might be the best player on the floor, and he's going to show that in this game. Since I started with you, partner, last, let's start with Shad first. How you feel about this matchup?
I just feel like the Thunder just don't have the experience yet. They're 1 year away for me. When they get, Chet Holmgren and whoever else, they draft next year, maybe bring in a free agent or two, I think there'll be a contender, next year in the West. This year, I think it's more just, SGA, like you said, he's definitely, probably he's going to be the best player on the floor. And he's certainly, to me, an all NBA player. But to me, after that, I think you just have too many inexperienced players, that are rookies or second, third year players who seem like they never even played in a big game. Like, because the Thunder have, been tanking, or not tanking, but just haven't been, one of the, better teams in the league the past few years. I just think the Pelicans have too much experience, with guys like, CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram, who are, all-star caliber players and can put up, 30 points easily on any given night. And I think, you're going to have one of those two kind of take over and, you know, shoot the lights out, plus they have good inside, underrated talent, and Jonas Valanciunas, who's a pretty much a walking double-double that nobody talks about. And just the experience that they got last year in the playoffs. I think last year they were the 7th seed, 8th seed in the playoffs. So they know what it takes to, get there with the talent that they have. And like I said, they're used to playing with Zion Williamson. He's missed more games in his, career than he's played. So I don't think that's going to be a loss for them. They have a much better chance if he played, but it's not like, it's not like a team losing their best player, like a Paul George, one of their best players at the last minute, like a Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, like the Clippers and some of these other teams. So I think the experience and just kind of the talent at the top that's been there before is going to take the Pelicans to this win.
Yeah, talk about speaking of injuries.
Poster child. Greg, what we got on this matchup?
Yeah, I think first off, this is by far to me the most entertaining of the matchups. Like this is the one that is like a must watch for me. I think you have so much young talent on this, burgeoning talent. Two teams that I think both are going to improve going forward as the years go by. Shai Gilgeous has had an incredible year. I'm with you, James. You pointed to Giddey. He's maybe the most underrated player in the league already. I mean, if you get to see him play enough, he does a little bit of everything. But I do think New Orleans from last year, you alluded to the Alvarado injury. That actually is a factor. Alvarado was a difference maker, but I do think the one-game format at home, Brandon Ingram, he's had some monster games lately. At McCollum, I think the overall experience, it seemed like OKC, they rallied to win their last 2 games to get in, but I believe they lost 3 or 4 prior. You almost got the sense that the pressure was getting to them a little bit. And I just, my own opinion, sky high on them going forward. I get the feeling like it ends early in New Orleans this time around. Love their team, love their future. I just think New Orleans at home has a little more to give, a little more experience. I think they've been in this spot before, had a great playoff run last year. I would envision the same. I think New Orleans takes care of business.
No. CProc, what we got?
I guess practically I'll round it out and not divert too much. I would love to see OKC pull some magic with this, because they are such a young team. They're gonna own the draft for the next decade practically, because they pretty much own everyone's picks plus their own. But they do, to me. I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm digging deeper, double down on what Shad said. I think they're a little ahead of schedule. I think they had a chance to be in the play-in one way or the other. But with the fact that they lost their top draft pick going into the season, they probably should not have even been in the play-in. So I do think they're a little ahead of schedule. I would love, and I do agree with Greg. I think this is going to be a shootout. I'll definitely take the over in this game. Because I think even without, and they might keep it close just because Zion's not there. I mean, they might have a chance to keep it close because they don't have to deal with that. But CJ and Brandon Ingram by themselves is probably enough to carry them past OKC. As much as I would love to see Thunder do something, despite those awful jerseys. Chad's favorite. as much as I would love to see them do it, I just think they're probably a little bit ahead of schedule right now.
Yeah, Chase, quickly, I'm just looking at their schedule again too. They a couple weeks ago, your beloved Charlotte Hornets, they lost, giving up 137 at home to the third unit Hornets. They really kind of struggled down the stretch, and even their last 2 wins. And again, they've had a great season. I don't mean to, but their last 2 wins, which saved it in Dallas taking, were at Utah and home against Memphis, when Memphis basically sat their guys. So I think the pressure and the length of the long season, it's a factor with these young guys, right? I mean, you play 80 games, it starts to add up, especially younger players. They're not physically ready for their rigors of a season. And I think you've started to see that. I think the foundation started to crack.
And until you mentioned it, Shad, I totally forgot about Jonas. The Thunder don't have the size to deal with him. He's going to tear them apart.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd have the size to deal with him even if they had Holmgren.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's, the man's
He's 90 pounds.
Yeah.
I think it's time to crave the hunger of all the degenerate gamblers out there. Let's get into some locks. Since we were talking about OKC and New Orleans, let's start with that game. Partner, are there any short things that you see?
I'm taking over. I think defense. I think there's not a lot of defense that is either one of these teams' interest. And I mean, 228 is 114 apiece. I think either one of these teams could score 114 in their sleep. So I'm gonna take the over as the lock in the New Orleans game.
Nice. Greg.
I would agree with that synopsis as far as OKC has been getting bludgeoned on that end of the floor lately. I wouldn't see that changing. So I mean, you figure Pelicans, I'm guessing they score 120 plus. That leaves not much. I think OKC will score some points. I like the over there, but I think my favorite would be. This is actually similar to the Miami Heat, the other Eastern Conference game. Same spread, same everything. I'm high on Toronto winning this game. I don't see Chicago just not in love with their squad this year. Laying the 5, I think they will cover the money line at -200. I think they. I don't want to say they win by 25, but I think this is a 12 to 14 point win, never in danger. So I would go Toronto, and I would go the over in the OKC New Orleans game.
Awesome. Shad, before we go to you, partner, you didn't pick a lock for the other game. Do you want to do
that? Their total is 214.5, which comes out to 107 plus or minus an extra basket. Is it ballsy to say the under in this? I mean, the easy money would be to take the Raptors to cover, or even to borrow a strategy from Shad with the Miami Heat, is to just bump that spread up a little bit more to 8, 9, 10. But I mean, is it a little ballsy to take the under in that game? Because you figure they're probably gonna beat each other up. The Bulls got some players that might be missing. It might be an ugly game. So I mean, maybe the under's a play. Maybe. I know it's sacrilegious to pick an under in 2023 in the NBA, but.
But don't forget, too, teams will play differently come playoff time as well, right? So I don't care what you say. You don't see an NBA team's best defensive effort every game. We all know that. That will change come this week. You will see more of an emphasis on that end across the league. I don't mean they're going to be locked down, but there won't be possessions given up. Let's put it that way.
All right, Shad.
All right. My lock is gonna be the OKC Thunder plus 5.5.
Mm.
They, as you were saying, that the Thunder and the Pelicans are very familiar with each other. 3 of the 4 games, yes, the Pelicans won, but they only won by, I believe, 4 points or less. And the other game, in the game that they did lose, the Thunder blew them out by, I believe, by about 15, 16 points.
Yeah.
So I think it just with watching, just with looking at the history of how they played this year, I think it's going to be, a much closer game than 5 points. And it's probably going to be like a 1 or 2 3-point game. So I think that's just a lock, that, the Thunder stay within, 1 or 2 possessions, even though they might lose. As far as the other game, I'm gonna go the same way. I think the Bulls plus 5 is, a good pick there too. I think I don't think Toronto, even though they're a better team, I don't see them really blowing out teams that much. Especially, Pat Bev, he's going to play hard, make that team play hard, throughout the game, whether they're down by 20 points at halftime or if they're down, 20 points in the fourth quarter. He's going to make them play like it's a tie game, throughout. So I think it's going to be, closer than most people think, but even though they still might lose. So I think this game might actually go to an overtime or something like that, just because, the Bulls become scrappy at the end. So I'm going to take the Bulls plus 5.
MVP. I actually do like. I was looking at that before. Actually, I do like that dog pick of OKC. Just like that would almost, to me, that would be like if you were going to double up on 1 point spread on one game and from outcome perspective, to take New Orleans outright and take the points to OKC. I was thinking about that before I noticed the total. Kind of double up on that.
Now, Shad, if you think that Bulls and Toronto game has the potential to go to OT, and you're going to take the Bulls plus 5, would you also take the over?
Yeah, I think you have to take the over if it goes to overtime. That's probably an additional 20 points to, any game. So I would definitely, bet the over if I did bet it. But I tend to stay away from over-unders. I'm more of a point spread guy and a money line guy and, player props. But if I would, I'd bet the over just because like I said, I think it's probably going to be like one of those overtime games that, it may be 98-98, but when they go in OT, it's going to end up being 110 or 108 or something. It's going to push it over.
Yeah.
The old backdoor.
All right, gang. Keep it locked on our socials. Follow us on YouTube at Hoops Voice Pod, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Hoops Voice Pod. And let us know if you use these bets and win some money, because we need some sponsorship dollars and start a Patreon or something.
Taking royalties.
But no, for real, drop us a line, connect with us, see what's happening, see what goes on in these playing games, and we'll get ready for the real thing in a couple of weeks. But until then, Hoops Boys Pod.
Go.